Dale.
Literally just finger gunned me right into the parking lot. I said, "Oh, okay, so this is how it's
Coco
gonna
was a
be."
solid backup. Chris has been shitting on Coco all year.
God, this guy
I'm,
Coco Johnson,
look,
they're
I'm
gonna
riding
put
that
him in
Coco
double-digit
bandwagon
goals.
all year.
He couldn't even get off the plane properly. He got hurt right off the off the steps.
But yet you're making love videos for Robbie
No
Robinson.
question about it. I am ready to get hurt again.
Chris, the Herons are back. Welcome, everybody, to episode number 58 of the Battered Herons podcast. I am your host, Daniel Granada. Alongside me, as always, is Mr. KBD himself. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good, man. I got some water, and I'm ready to rock and roll, bro.
Yeah?
Ready to rock and roll after this L that we just took.
Yeah, it was a rough one. It was definitely a rough one. We had a good time at the game before the game started. We finally made it out to
Yes.
the green lot. A lot of people out there, very hospitable. Thank you, Mike, and everybody for having us. It was awesome.
Yes.
And thank you for taking care of Chris, because he was so twisted that he really didn't know where he was for most of the game.
Yeah, I thanks to the Greenlaw gang and Mike and all of their bad influences, I didn't get white boy wasted, but I think I got light boy wasted. So it's close enough. And I had no idea what happened 60% of the game. So thanks for that, guys. Greenlaw.
As halftime was approaching, Chris kind of leaned over to me. He says, "Orlando scored? How did they score?" I was like, "Holy crap! You're gonna have to watch this game over if we're gonna record."
Yes. Yeah, and it was a fun time though. It was like you said, very hospitable. You know, like I said, anybody that wants to go out and hang out at the Green Lot, you know, I recommend it. It's a fun time, right over on the side of the training facility. So good people.
Yeah. All right. So Orlando showed up. They brought had to be at least 100 people out there, and I thought that they were well represented, and I kind of like when they're out there. Like, obviously this week it didn't work out for us, but I kind of like when they show up. They're loud. You know, it's a lot more fun when we score and it goes back and forth. I used to sit before you became a season ticket holder. I used to sit right next to them when they would come down, and I had a lot of fun going back and forth, tripping with them. So it's unfortunate they moved them all the way to the other side of the south side, but it was still fun, and it was cool. I had a good time seeing them out there. I mean, obviously we didn't interact with any of them because they kind of put them off to a corner, but it's fun kind of getting to yell at them and whatnot.
Well, I think it's really cool to see them come, you know, in a pretty big group. You know, before the game started, they all kind of gathered through the little secret gate on the side of Drive Pink, over by where all the reporters park and all that stuff. And there was a good a good 200-300 people. At least
I don't think it wasn't that much.
Yeah, man. I think there was a good 200-300 people, man. They came out. Yeah.
I thought it was a solid 100. If you say 200-300, maybe, I don't know, but I know that they had a good representation. Again, I love it. I love when that rivalry can get up that way, and I hope that we have a good showing when we go up north, which I think is in August or September. So I guess we're gonna keep beating around the bush, or we're gonna get to the nitty gritty. Because I mean, you know what? Before we do, I did have one thing I wanted to bring up real quick, and I mean, we like to try to talk about this experience we had at the games before we actually get onto the pitch. And this is going to be real quick. I want to know if anybody else had an experience like this. My wife always goes at halftime to buy some Bustelo coffee. She went, and they have a little kiosk where you have to order it yourself. She decided that she wanted to order a pastelito. She ordered this pastelito, and they told her, "Hey, we don't have pastelitos." And she said, "Okay, that's fine. Get a refund." And they said, "We don't do refunds."
What?
Now, I need somebody from Metro Miami. If you're watching, you need to get this in order, because how are you going to offer something, then not sell it? And that's fine if it's an error, but then say that you don't offer refunds. Now, I wasn't there. My wife came and told me about it later. I think it's BS. They ended up giving her something else in replacement, but I still think it's BS. One, to offer something that you're not really selling. Two, to actually tell her that she can't get a refund. So, and look at that. Matthew said that he did get a refund there before. So maybe it's just my wife. She was too soft. I got to bring Matthew in. He's the big guns.
Yeah.
All right.
You're definitely missing on that right there. Matthew is the key to get. Oh well, now Matthew is elaborating. He had to fight for it. So
If they don't sell something, you should get a refund. Anyway, all right.
yeah,
So on to the pitch, Chris. We have lost again.
I was seeing double P.
We felt like we were finally kind of building something. We felt like we figured out, yes, it's going to be boring. Yes, we're not a fan of the tactics. We don't like the whole being very defensive and playing the counter. It's very boring to watch. But if it gives us wins, we'll live with it. And with the talent we have on the roster, we felt that was the way to go. And I thought that that's the way we were going to keep going. But for some reason, we started shying away from it. It started with Nashville where we got a little too defensive, right? But then again, we lost David Ruiz. We didn't start Joseph. I think it was a middle of the week game. So you and I both said, okay, maybe because it was a random Wednesday game, they want to rest people for Saturday. We didn't want to put too much into it. But this week, we threw that out the window. We went back to that form where we were losing 6 games in a row.
Yeah.
We held possession. We tried to build up the sides with the crosses, and it just wasn't working. That cross and pray doesn't work, especially for us with 5'5" Joseph playing in the middle. What did you think about Saturday's game before we get into it in detail in general?
Well, I mean, just generally speaking, I thought that there was poor play, at least within 4 players that I can think of off the top of my head during the game. And it was kind of disappointing to watch, to be honest, especially for such a huge game. Not just of this magnitude because it's like rivalry week, right? But we're talking about like this is a big game for our season. You know, we're talking about somebody that we're going to be competing for a spot in the playoffs with. They were literally a point over us. And so to take that kind of a loss against an opponent that's going to fare very close to us in the standings, I think that's just ridiculous.
I think the fact that we went, like you said, back to how we were playing, and the fact that it's a rivalry game, and I understand that for the players a lot of times it's the same thing, right? Like to them, and
it's the soccer game as the soccer game,
right? They're not bleeding Inter Miami, pink and black and whatnot. Like it's more for the fans, but they know what it means to us, and they feel it. The environment at the stadium, like I felt almost like it was lackluster, and it was very frustrating to watch. And you know what? I wanted to get on something real quick before I forget. You and I were talking, and we've been talking about this, and I've been talking about it for a couple of weeks now. I want to say maybe a month or so, about how when we bring up what are our best defenders, a lot of people bring up Franco Negri. And everybody says he's one of our best defenders. He's one of our best defenders. I'm yet to see it. Like, I get it. He's not a bad player because he does contribute a lot offensively. That I can't take away from him. He does. Yeah. He contributes a lot on that left side. Those overlapping runs, the crosses, I get it. But defensively, you can't tell me that he's good defensively because I haven't seen it. Maybe he hasn't had opportunities to show it because he's never back there. But yeah, I saw more from Noah Allen in those 10 minutes to close out that New England game, was it, than I've seen from Negri all year. And case in point, did you see that horrible marking that he had in the box on that first goal?
Yes. That was brutal. That was brutal. I mean, look, Matthew right now is chiming in on the chat. Sergey is the best in the back, right? And look, Sergey's great, but I got to say that Miller is doing it big for me right now. He is like number 1 defender in my eyes. And this is ahead of Sergey just for the simple fact that he's actually, been playing a lot more lately. And Sergey didn't play 2 games ago, and then he was taken out of this game early. I mean, I get it. Yeah, Sergey's good. He's super solid. But it's kind of scary to see him come off. And to bring up the point that you did, right? Negri's marking on defense was horrid. If there was anyone that had a play on that throw-in, because I asked you, and you were kind of half drunk, so you thought it was a corner, but it was a throw-in, bitch.
I think it was a corner, yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and so, yeah, exactly. You're seeing kicks instead of throws.
And
but regardless, yeah, you did see it. I didn't. But when I looked back at it in the replay and in the game footage, yeah, man. I mean, Negri, you had that opportunity to block that. What are you doing? I guess, Sergey, there's no way you have a shot at blocking that. Even Miller, no. I mean, you got no shot either.
No, Miller was over his right shoulder. He should have attacked
Yeah,
that ball. But Negri, more than anybody, should have attacked
yeah,
that ball also. Sergi, I get it. Like the way he was positioned, it would have been hard to get through. What was his name? Kara was his name, through his body. But I think Miller and Negri should have had a chance at that. And it was very frustrating to see because it was almost like luck the way it just hit the top of his head. Yes, he did guide it backwards, but man, that was very frustrating to see, especially the way we were playing. We couldn't give up a goal like that, man. That was very, very frustrating.
and oh yeah, Mr. Krabs kicks into the chat. You were drunk. Well, this team does make us drink, and that was before the game, Krabs. All right, I was looking forward, so that actually sat poorly with me. And then Pete Abronsky kicks in. Sergey, then Miller. Sergey, then Miller. Look, it's 1A or 1B at this point. I mean, they're both. Let me tell you, those were two really, really great acquisitions to this defense. And I mean, look, if we're
Esteban,
yeah,
we're gonna get to the Neville stuff after we talk about the game. But I promise you, I am gonna ask Chris if he's finally on the train. For those listening on audio, we have people in the chat asking if Chris is finally on the Fire Phil train. Well, back to the Sergi thing. Was Sergi like? I don't know if anybody actually asked. Did they ask if he was healthy? Because if he wasn't feeling well, why did he start? And let me tell you
he
something. We said that he wasn't his fault on the goal, but there
yeah
was a play earlier before that where
yeah
he didn't mark his man, and then man, I keep forgetting this kid's name. It was Akara, the striker for Orlando. Well,
yeah
he was completely unmarked. Sergi was the closest person to him. He didn't mark him, got a clean-headed shot, and it hit off the post. Should have been
yeah.
another goal. That would have been completely on Sergi. So I understand that overall he's been our best defender, but he had a really bad 30 minutes. And
Yeah.
if they would have told me that it wasn't because he got subbed out because of his health, it was because of his poor performance, I would believe it because he played very poorly on Saturday.
Well, I mean, I think with Sergey, I think that he may get the benefit of the doubt because of the injury. He was Neville was asked during the press conference about the substitution and why Sergey was brought off, and it was it's pretty typical because of injuries. He wasn't going to make it the rest of the game. I imagine it's to preserve him for the long term. I guess maybe he wanted to feel him out, see how much game time he could do at this point. I'm okay with that substitution. It's the problem is it's like what somebody brought it up. Why play him in the first place if you know you're not going to get a solid half out of him, or even a little bit more than a solid half?
I thought you might have played it safe and played him as a sub. Like bring him on as a sub if you think that you're trying to slow him in there. But I mean, I guess Orlando, so it's a big game. So you want to get all your I don't know. I was very confused. And I was also confused that you started with a back five. And then when you take off Sergi, all of a sudden, instead of bringing in Sailor, you decided to go ahead and bring in Stefanelli. Now, I will tell you, once they made that change, all of a sudden they started attacking a little more. So I'll give them that. Tactically, they did look a little better offensively, but I didn't get it. Why give up on the back five that quickly?
Well, and Pete's kicking in. He probably told the training staff he felt ready. I mean, I imagine they know when somebody feels ready or not. Matthew's kicking in. The training staff's got to know better. Bad call by the training staff by Matthew. I mean, the thing is that you have a really good defender in Sergey, and you want to give him the time. If he's saying he's ready, you got to kind of let it play out, especially for a game of this magnitude. A game this big, you got to play your big names.
Look, I see a lot of people in the chat are saying Stefanelli was bad. He was horrible. I agree. If you listen to this consistently, I'm not a big Stefanelli guy. I think he's only in there for the cardio. But I will tell you, once the cardio man went in on Saturday, his running around opened up Negri. Negri, if you watch that back, go ahead and Apple TV, go ahead and watch just the first 30 minutes of that game. And you'll see Negri is non-existent on offense. He doesn't have the freedom to roam because he has to stay back on defense with that back line. And as soon as Stefanelli comes in and he starts making runs inside the middle of the field, inside the middle of the pitch, all of a sudden Negri is free to run up the flank. And Negri finally started getting up the field as soon as Stefanelli came in. So although Stefanelli technically, I wouldn't say is the best or even good so far for us this year, he did make a difference just by freeing up Negri on offense on Saturday.
I guess his presence did, but I mean, and
Yes,
look at
his
what
presence.
Lucas.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, and look at what
Lassiter might have been able to do the same thing.
Yeah, and now look at Lucas, the dropping the dime of the day here. I don't know if you want to talk about this yet, but he's asking a good question. I hate to say it, but tomorrow might be the game that decides the season. I mean, do you want
Tomorrow's an
to?
Open Cup game.
Are
Like
we?
I understand that
Are we there
it's
yet for
Nashville.
an Open Cup
No,
game
no.
with a
Let-
10? I mean,
Let me tell you something. And I was looking it up, and I was quite surprised. Right now, Inter Miami, as bad as they've been, and this is why I love the playoff system, by the way. As bad as they've been, they're only 3 points off of the 9th seed. Technically the 8th seed, but the reason I say the 9th seed instead of the 8th seed is because the 9th seed, which I believe is Charlotte, has played one more match than we have. So we have a game in hand. So literally, if we could win one more game, we would be in the 9th seed. So no, that doesn't decide. Tomorrow's an Open Cup game, first of all. And second of all, in this league, you go on a small 3-4 game win streak, all of a sudden
Yeah.
you're 7th in the East. So no,
Yeah.
this season is long from over. So I'm not worried about the actual season yet. I mean, obviously you want to get rolling soon, but no, I'm not too worried about that yet.
I'll tell you what, right here, Krabs is asking. He's basically saying, if we lose tomorrow, it better be the last straw for Neville. I do not think that tomorrow's game is the last straw for Neville, but I do think that this Saturday's game may be that game. And especially, I mean, I don't know if we want to go there yet, Danny, because we're still covering the game against Orlando.
Right. No, and I did want to get into this. Steven De Palma said summer transfer window decides the season. That I agree with, because if we can hang tight, until the summer, and all of a sudden we get a couple players that make a difference in the summer, kind of like we did last year with Pozuelo. All of a sudden we get on a little run, we make it to the 7th, 6th seed, and all of a sudden anything can happen. So yes, I agree 100%. The summer transfer window is what's going to decide this season.
So, I mean, closing out the Sergey stuff, look, I really didn't like the fact that they subbed him off or at least brought him on if he wasn't 100%, but I get why they did it, and it doesn't bother me why they took him off early. It doesn't.
Well, was he injured, though? Is that what Phil Neville said?
Yes,
Okay.
correct. He has like a knock or something.
All right. Now, do you think that any of this, like the way we changed tactically and whatnot, does it have anything to do with David Ruiz not being there?
I'd like to say no. I mean, I think that any good play out of the midfield, especially when it's not coming from the wings, makes a difference. And the fact that you see Kramashi and Ruiz out on the field at the same time causing problems and actually being productive in the middle of the field. And we're not talking about midfield left to right. We're talking about midfield right in the middle where they can be able to healthily create for the strikers. Then I would say, yeah, there is a little bit of a David Ruiz effect, right? I mean, if we're still working up the wings,
I mean, look,
I
felt like
something.
David Ruiz played very well with Yedlin up the right side, and I felt like that freed up Kramashi to kind of play towards the middle. I felt like on Saturday, Kramashi was playing out wide, and he just didn't look comfortable out there. Like that's
weird.
not his game. Yeah, it didn't seem like it was his game. I think that David Ruiz's absence, and I would have never thought back in the beginning of February when we were talking about the upcoming season that we'd be saying in May, like, man, we really missed David Ruiz. And it's only been like 2 or 3 games with him, but I do think that those 2 or 3 games where he played well, we won. And I think that made a big difference. And I think not having him and having Arroyo back there by himself again, it kind of did play a factor in how we played.
And everybody is chiming in with this Pozuelo stuff, man. I mean, everybody misses him. And not only and you're talking about David Ruiz making a difference in the midfield. I don't know if you want to jump onto this one right here, but Pizarro missing in the midfield. Like, are we there yet? Are we missing Pizarro? Because I'm missing him.
Oh, no. I mean, yes, I think Pizarro, he pushed the ball. He manned the middle of the field. He was, I thought, most part of the season, the beginning of the season at least, the most productive player offensively in the midfield. I think we are missing Gregory and Mota because they're the ones that kind of connect the back line to the forwards. And I mean, for as upset as everybody is at Neville, you can't deny that we're missing the core of our midfield. We're literally missing our 3 starters. We're missing Mota, Gregory, and Pizarro.
Yeah, man.
It's tough to make up for those losses. So I get it. But yes, I do think Pizarro would help a lot in the creation because there's nothing going on. Under the strikers, there's nobody there. Like everybody goes wide and there's nobody under the strikers. It's really tough to watch, honestly. And Pizarro would fill that hole.
Listen, having those 3 midfielders makes a big difference in the team's performance. And that's without coach talk.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with what you're saying. But
I know we don't want to get there yet, but I mean it's factual.
Well, let's finish up with the first half. And before we finish the first half, I did want to bring something up. Speaking of the first half,
yeah,
you've been asking for a tifo forever.
Oh,
we got a tifo.
Yes.
What do you think about the tifo that we got on Saturday?
Big ups. Listen, I saw a ton of people on social media clowning and saying, FedEx and Kinko's and all this other crap. How about you all go eat a bag of rocks? Because those tifos were nice. There were several tifos. There were a couple, different tifos. And hey, I give them a lot of props, man. They did it. They looked nice. It was different. Any sort of effort, I think, is great with the tifo game.
I have a question, and I'm going to direct it to the chat because I'm kind of curious as to if anybody knows the answer.
Oh, nice.
I like the tifo. I thought the tifo was cool. My question is, why across the bottom it said our football has arrived? Like that's what threw me off. Why did it say our football has arrived?
Well, I think Lucas is answering that question right now. He's saying that tifo was old, by the way. So maybe that's why it's old, because
I had never seen that before. It
says our football has arrived, which means I guess it was like the first year tifo. Oh, you see? Yeah, Steve Munoz also chiming in here. Same tifo from 3 years ago. Looks like a billboard ad on 95. I mean, look, guys, this was the first this was the first time Chris, that I've ever seen tifos out in those stands. And it wasn't just a big wide one, right? We're talking about, I think they threw out like 2 or 3 additional tifos.
Those vertical ones.
Yes. Those, I mean, look, hey, we've been wanting our supporter groups to kind of get together and do something as a whole. And I think that this game was something that I got to give them all props for. Southern Legion, Vice City. I mean, all the supporter groups, you got to give them at least a little bit of respect for what they did. Because if it was that easy to just go to Kinko's and go get a damn tifo, then everybody else should be going and grabbing a freaking tifo. Get out of here. Get out of here.
Look, I like the tifo. It's just the wording confused me when it said that our football had arrived. I was like, what does that mean? Like, I wasn't sure if there was something else to it or not.
Matthew's also saying from the pandemic, a lot of people here saying that they're old, so they're new to me, guys.
That makes sense. All right. So what did you think in general of the first half? We had no shots on goal on the first half. What did you think in general of the first half? Now, I will tell you, I thought that in the first half, Joseph and Campana were finally linking up a little bit, especially after the 30th minute mark when we started getting a little more offensive. They were linking up well here and there. There was one play where Joseph laid it off for Campana beautifully, but he sailed it over the bar. There was another one where Stefanelli had the most beautiful through pass he's had all year long. Negri crossed it, but he crossed it in front of Campana. And it probably would have been better if he would have laid it off to Joseph, which was trailing. But again, Stefanelli, beautiful. So they had chances. There were plays there where you could have seen where there was a possibility to score, but things just didn't work out. And officially, there were 0 shots in the first half.
Yes, officially. Man, it was just a brutal half to watch. I mean, you could see that they're trying to link up the back to the middle to the front, but then, we're seeing a lot of this side stuff, and it's really disappointing to be able to see that we can't work anything up the middle, that everything is just getting worked out to the sides, and we didn't even have the speed out there to get it down on the sides. And then Negri, who's a freaking defender, is pushing up so far. I mean, we're literally getting exposed.
And I'm gonna get into that
and
when
we
we get
talked
into
about
those
that.
3 subs, because everybody's been killing
Yeah.
Neville for those 3
Yeah.
subs. But
I
mean,
can't do it.
I think there's
I
a
can't
reason
do it.
behind it, and we're gonna get into that. But since you were bringing
by
up,
the way,
uh-huh.
well, before you get into your thought, right? Among us, yeah, everybody here has hope winning the U.S. Cup. Lucas, don't be that guy. All right, let's be nice here. All right, let's have
Well,
hope. Hope is a beautiful thing. Okay.
So I have a heat map of the game, and this isn't a funny one from like that I did last week. This is a serious one. This one,
Yeah.
this one I got from WhoScored.com. Okay, this is the heat map of Inter Miami from left to right. Okay, as you can see, we are allergic to the box. We stop penetrating right before you get to that top of the box, and then you see how we kind of come down a little bit on the left and right side where I guess Yerlin and Negri would be pushing up to cross.
Yeah.
That's our offense. We cannot build, and there's no runs inside the box. Like, this is where our game is played, and it's frustrating to watch, like you said, because we have no creativity. We have nothing going on in that final third. It's cross and pray, or as in everybody in the chat likes to say, cross and shala. That's what our game plan is, and it's rough. And I'm gonna get into those stats real quick about those crosses in a little bit also.
Well, and that heat map was brutal. I mean, you see that, and then if you see on Negri's side, he's pushing a lot more than Yedlin. And Yedlin, I got to give him credit. Give him credit where credit's due. He's running up a little bit more, and he's coming back on defense. Him and Miller were probably the best defenders on the field.
Let me tell you something.
Creators.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. If you watch that game over, Miller was pressing high, and when he would get the ball, he would push the ball up sometimes, and he was creating some plays. Like, he had a beautiful through pass to Joseph, which led off to Campa. Like, he was probably the best number 10 on the field yesterday. If you watch some of those passes that Miller was putting through when he finally pushed up and he had the ball on the on Orlando's side of the field, like, Miller was doing that. But the thing with Miller is he's slow, so you can't count on him getting back, which is how they ended up scoring later on in the game. But before we get into the second half, I did have a question for you. I know you were drunk, so maybe you don't remember. A lot of people are talking crap about the halftime show. What was the halftime show that everybody is pooping on? Because I never,
no idea.
I always go to Bustelo. No? Okay, maybe somebody in the chat can fill me in. Something was going on in the halftime show that I heard some people pooping on. Okay, well, I missed the halftime show. I'm always at the Bustelo stand.
I mean, what happened? Did like Britney Spears come out or something, or did we get Britney Spears?
I think Britney Spears would be an entertaining show. No,
I don't know.
Might be a train wreck, but it would be entertaining.
So far on Instagram, it's been kind of scary watching her. Matthew chiming in, the halftime show was bad. You're offering absolutely nothing, Matthew. What the hell happened? Okay.
All right.
We have Lucas says it was a local artist. Never do that again. Matthew said, okay, here we go.
No,
here we go, Matthew.
A
bunch of nobodies.
Yeah,
let's go, baby. Let's go.
No. We're not pooping on local artists. No, they're trying to make it. No, F you guys. That's messed up. No, they're trying to make it. Don't poop on them. Forget it. I take it back. I don't even want to talk about it. I'm trying to edit this out later. All right. All right. Second half, Chris. What were your thoughts on the second half? We had no shots in the first half. Second half, we came out. What are your thoughts on your second half?
On the second half, it was a lot better, and I'll tell you that it was a lot better because, number one, you take out a defender. Well, you take out a defender, but then we ended up replacing a couple defenders. But I thought it was a lot better. There was a lot more connecting plays in the second half. I thought that Coco Jean made a little bit of a difference getting on. I felt like Taylor also came on and made a little bit of a difference. Those substitutions to me were critical in the game. We needed those.
What did you think of?
Wait, no,
Campana's goal?
Taylor actually. Wait, did Taylor start?
No, Taylor came in as a sub. He came in like the 75th.
Oh, that's
minute or
right. It was
something.
Coco Jean that started. Yes, Taylor came
Yeah.
on. Yeah.
What did you think of Campana's goal?
Well, I thought that it was fucking ballsy. I thought that goal was extremely needed. He found the space for it and decided, I'm just gonna YOLO this into the back of the net. I mean, this is kind of what we paid Campana to do. No,
Right, you got to take the game over. When somebody's
Yeah.
not giving you service, you create your own service. Now, I will
Yeah.
tell you, when I was watching that back, if you go back and you watch that replay, he gets the ball,
yeah,
and I felt like he stood on the ball for a second, right? He held up the play, and I felt like he was waiting for Coco Jean to kind of make that run to the right flank to feed him the ball to get crossed in, right? That's usually what they do. That's the game.
the
plan.
typical. Yes,
But Coco Jean didn't do that. He didn't run to the right flank. For some reason, he cut into the box.
Yeah.
And he gave Campana no choice. He had nowhere to pass the ball.
Yeah.
So he went ahead and he started dribbling towards the middle of the field, which is where he ended up finding the space to take that shot. But if Coco Jean ends up going to that right side of the field, I think he lays the pass off and he doesn't take that shot. I don't think there's the freedom to do that. I think the game plan is build up the side. Always build up the side. And I felt like that was creativity, but because Coco Jean messed up. That's how I felt.
I'm going to use a hockey term here, Richard. So here's a ding for you. I feel like he deked it towards his left, which is his strong side. And so the moment that he shifted it towards his strong side and set the ball in front of him in open space, he kind of knew that he was going to blast that. I don't think that play would have been made in terms of a pass, no matter where anybody would have been.
But before he deked it, like you said, he held up the play. He was waiting to see what runs were being made.
He was.
And Coco made the run into the box instead of into the right flank. And I think that's when he kind of went off to the left. And look, I'm all for it. I mean, Joseph made a good run also, but Leo didn't have the angle to give him the ball. And speaking of Joseph,
I feel kind of bad for him.
Well, did you or did you not get a little bit of Higuain vibes throughout that game with Joseph? Because it's the first time that I see him constantly doing this. And he was doing those a lot. Like he was throwing up his arms. You could tell he was visibly frustrated. And up until this point, I feel like he's kept it pretty in. Like he's kept it in. And I thought he's been doing a pretty good job. You know, he's frustrated, but he's been holding it in. But I felt like it's showing a lot more especially on Saturday. I felt like it was showing a lot more.
Listen, you could tell that he's just not getting the service on how he wants it. I think that if we had better midfielders giving him the passes, I think he'd be able to do a lot better. I mean, I don't know. I mean, everybody's kind of expecting him to just sort of make plays, create plays. But I mean, what can you expect from him? Like, is it too much to ask to have someone to pass it decently to him? Or are we expecting him to create completely? Because, I mean, I don't know if you saw during the game, he was backing up towards the middle of the field trying to create plays as well.
Yeah, I saw him going out to midfield to try to get the ball. And that also is similar to what Higuain used to do. Higuain's like, nobody's getting me the ball where I need it. I'm just going to go get the ball myself. So I agree with that also. I did notice that.
And right, there's a couple of people that are talking about it, and Steve chimes in. Only Tata Martino can save Joseph. Gabriel is kicking in. It's normal. No one gives him one good ball. Lucas also chiming in. Joseph was pissed. He's making the passes. Felt like he should have been more selfish. That I can actually agree with. So maybe he's here because let me tell you, there were two plays where he came back and he gave Campana solid passes, at least on two plays that I can remember. And so the fact of the matter is he's setting.
I thought Campana had a bad game. I thought Campana had a bad game.
Yes, he did have a bad game. It wasn't his best, even with a goal, mind you. And we're
Well,
talking
that's why
about
nobody's
Joseph
trashing him right now.
Of course, but that's because everybody's eating the goal down, but they're not seeing the Joseph 2-3 passes that he made to Campana, and Campana completely blew it by either blasting it or going off sides.
Yeah.
You know, if
Yeah,
we're
'cause
gonna sit here and
that was a beautiful pass. Yeah.
we're gonna bash coaches, I mean, we got to hold players accountable too. You know.
All right. Well, let's talk about the goals that Orlando scored. So
Ooh.
we tied the game 1-1 after Campana scored, and I don't know about you because I know you were in another world, but at that point, I thought we're gonna win this game. Like I really did feel that way. Like something's gonna happen, and we're gonna get one
Yeah.
more goal, and we're gonna get because we don't kiss sisters here. Like it's either
Yeah.
win or loss. One of only two
Yes.
teams to never draw. Us in Montreal. Maybe we'll finally draw with each other on Saturday. But up until now, only two teams haven't drawn, and we're one of them. And I was like, this isn't gonna be a draw. We're gonna win this game. And boy, was I wrong.
Yeah.
We started pressing. We pressed more. We drew, right? Before we drew, I felt like we weren't pressing a lot. We didn't have a high line. We weren't pressing a lot. But
Yeah.
for some reason, we drew, and all of a sudden we're like, okay, I smell blood in the water. Let's go for the win. I felt like that's what happened. And they started playing that high line, and that goal happened so quick. It was, I don't even know who was that made that pass to the midfield. Carrick got it and just chipped it over Miller. And let me tell you something. Playing the high line with somebody like Miller is horrible because he's slow.
Yes.
He's not going to win a foot race.
No way.
He got out hustled, and it was a one-on-one against Drake. And then, at that point, Drake had no chance. And it was really frustrating to see that counter and the way we gave up that goal in a blink of an eye.
Well, and it's like you said, he's not winning a race against anybody at any given point.
Recovering, no.
And the worst part is that on that counter, he was legitimately the only one available to defend. Because if you noticed on that play, everyone was almost at the half line mark. And here he is. He's probably
playing the high line.
Yeah. And I actually felt so bad because you see some of the midfielders and defenders just trying to bust their ass to get back. There's no way. You guys got no shot. This guy, the ball's going in the back of the net. Sorry about Bard. Sorry, but not sorry. And look,
and then
I mean, I don't know, Pete. I can't agree. They're not all slow except Yedlin. What about Negri, the Punisher? You know,
I feel bad saying this, but I really think Negri's overrated.
I'm just gonna let that sit there. I'm just gonna let that simmer there. Let the viewers watch that marinate and cook a little bit. You know,
I think we can. I think he's overrated.
I mean, that's kind of factual.
I feel like as a left back, he is overrated.
Yes,
that's just what I believe. So we gave up that goal. It was 2-1, and at that point, I thought we still had a chance to tie. I remember I looked at you. I don't know if you remember this, but I told you, you know what? I think we're gonna get out of here with a draw. Even when we were down 2-1, I was like, something's gonna happen. I could not believe that we would just score one goal, and I was like, we're gonna get out of here with a draw. And then the 82nd or 83rd minute happened, and this is the talking point after Saturday. The 3 substitutions.
Yeah.
And the substitutions were, who was that came in? It was Harry Neville came in. Who else?
Ian Frey.
Ian Frey and Ryan Saylor, right?
Yeah.
I got that right? Yes. Those are the 3 substitutions. Now, everybody is killing Neville for putting in 3 defenders. Now, this is the issue. Like we've talked about plenty of times, our fullbacks, our left and right backs, they are not necessarily defenders.
Yeah.
Negri is our best offensive player. Like you said, Yedlin was running back and forth all game. Yedlin was exhausted. Therefore, you put Harry Neville in for Yedlin. Although he is a defender, as soon as he came in, he was up on top of the field, taking the ball into the box. If you watch back, like he came in, he is technically a defender, but he is contributing offensively because we only build up the wings. So Neville was technically an offensive substitution. I don't care what you say. I don't care if you say he's a defender. That was an offensive substitution.
Yeah.
Okay. Ian
It was
Frey
a like
came
for
in.
like. It was a like for like substitution.
Yes. And yes. Technically, Yedlin is a defender, and so is Harry Neville.
Yeah.
But Yedlin and Negri contribute offensively. Harry Neville was there to contribute offensively. Ian Frey, he was put in there to help kind of create in the midfield.
Yeah.
And I get it. He's not necessarily the ideal person, but who else on the bench is? Pizarro's not there. David Ruiz isn't there, which isn't necessarily somebody you count on, but he wasn't there. Kramashi wasn't having a good game. So Ian Frey was there to contribute offensively. Can you think of anybody else that they could have put in to help in the midfield? Because nobody was creating in the midfield or filling in those spaces underneath the strikers.
There's only one midfielder and one forward that was available for substitution at that point. And it's Victor Ulloa and Borgelin. And you're not going to put Borgelin in for Leonardo Campana or Joseph Martinez when you're still trying to get your best players to get points. And you're not putting Ulloa in. You're not.
All right. And I'm going to get to that Borgelin point in a second. But real quick, then the last substitution was Kamal Miller came off for Ryan Saylor. Kamal Miller, come on, man. Like, he was playing a high line. He was running back and forth. He was trying to get back when they scored on him. He was exhausted also. So I understood those substitutions to an extent. Harry Neville, I thought, was an offensive substitution to an extent. I thought Ian Frey would help link up passes a little better in the midfield the last 10 minutes. I got that also. So I pushed back on the thought that it was all defensive. I pushed back on that. And now everybody's like, okay, what about Borgelin? What has Borgelin showed you that tells you that he is going to help offensively? Borgelin is slow. And if you tell me it's because he's tall, and if our game plan is to cross it in, that's another tall guy to head it, I'll give you that. And if we're going to say that, then I agree. If you choose to take off Joseph for Borgelin, I agree. But if it's not to take off Joseph, then Borgelin had no place on that pitch. What do you think of what I just said, Chris?
What I think is put me in and I'll get a couple of assists. I'm the new Pozuelo in town, okay? I'm not in Turkey. Come find me in Homestead. But no, with all seriousness, right? It's exactly a fact what you said. What have you seen in Borgelin that's going to tell you, I think it's a good idea to take out either Campana or Martinez? Absolutely nothing. And if you notice, when we started bringing up this conversation, the chat got kind of light. Everybody's been kind of crazy about how we brought in these three defenders. But, like, let's really think about this, guys. I mean, let's look at who was on the bench, right? You got Borgelin. You're not putting him in for Campana or for Joseph. You're not doing it. And if you're going to put in...
And real quick, go ahead. I'm sorry, just real quick. And if you're telling me that, again, if you're going to put him in because you hope to get his head on the receiving end of some crosses, I get it. But if you, and in all honesty, if what you're looking for is... because up until that point, the only goal we had was a masterful play by Campana. So what you're looking for is somebody to give you some magic. Are you expecting magic from Joseph or from Borgelin? Don't say that. Don't do that.
Look at what we're doing, guys. Look at what we're doing.
Don't do that.
Like,
I'll take Borgelin.
What are we doing here, right? I mean, all right. Not only are we going to talk about those last three substitutions and how wrong everybody is about those substitutions.
I'm not saying everybody's wrong. I'm saying that I am saying that I disagree.
Listen,
and I push back with what everybody's saying.
I'm saying everybody is wrong. And not only that, but if you really think about it, imagine if, and this is of course all hypothetical stuff, so maybe I'm just like dreaming in Disneyland here, but imagine if we had Gregory. Imagine if we had Mota, if we had Pizarro. Three of these other guys, you wouldn't even be sniffing the bench. So, I mean, what are we doing here, guys? Like, we clearly have a gaping hole in the midfield. It is as clear as day.
and everybody was getting on Neville about putting in the 3 defenders. Am I understanding it? Did anybody ask the question after the game in the press conference? Why he put in the 3 defenders?
Yes.
And what
Yes.
did he
They
say?
asked him.
Do you know what he said?
I mean, I don't remember exactly what he
Okay.
said verbatim, but
Well,
I mean, yeah, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say, I get that people, it's almost like when you say he put in 3 defenders, everybody thinks we're down a goal. Why are we trying to defend more? That's not
Yeah.
what happened.
Yeah.
We didn't put these
like for
3
like.
players in, and right, we didn't put in these 3 defenders and all of a sudden park the bus. That's not what happened.
Yeah, that's not. That's not.
We put in these 3 guys because that's what we had to work with. And Harry Neville is being offensive. He wasn't defending. He was all the way up the top right flank. He was trying to help on offense. Like Ian Frey, he wasn't back there inside his own box. Like we got caught on a counter when they scored that 3rd goal. Like we didn't get defensive. We stayed aggressive. Maybe you don't like the players that he put in, but there were no other options.
Listen,
so this whole like, oh, he put in 3 defenders. What an idiot. No, that's not what happened. That's what was available. Harry Neville came in as an offensive substitution because he was going to help offensively, not defensively. Like, what are you guys talking about? Yes, technically they're defenders, but there was nothing else available. Now everybody is saying, "Oh, La Cava. Get the fuck out of here! Who wants to see La Cava in the game? I'm not taking out Joseph for La Cava."
We're super stretching with La Cava. I'm about to get Inter Miami's favorite attorney and sue all you guys for defamation, whatever that is. You guys are getting kind of Facebooky. All right, I'm not gonna lie. Guys are getting kind of Facebooky.
To wrap up Saturday's game, which was honestly a mess.
I am down for this, Lucas. The time of the day for Lucas. I mean, he's on a fucking roll. Let's just start a GoFundMe to bring back Pozuelo. Let's fucking go. Let's go, guys.
The last thing I wanted to talk about the actual game on Saturday, before we start talking about all the fun stuff. Did you see that we only got 3 minutes of added time? How ridiculous was that? Would it have changed the outcome of the game? No, it wouldn't have. But still, when we played, I think it was Atlanta, they randomly gave them 9 minutes.
Yeah.
For what? Why the hell did they get 9 minutes?
Well, that's because it was the storytelling.
Don't give me that shit. For this game, there was 3 second-half goals, and then a guy, like, his hamstring literally, like, fell off his body. They had to go search for it. The game stopped for, like, 10 minutes while he's rolling around on the ground, and we get 3 minutes? Again, it wouldn't have changed anything, but it's BS because we need to figure out a way to get this to be automatically timed. Like, stop the clock from now on. Do something, because these refs are out of their minds with this whole adage time.
Well, and you're not even bringing up the biggest thing. You have Galese, the biggest bitch in Orlando, holding the ball for like a minute and a half.
Yes.
There was a point where I saw Taylor like right in front of him and looking at the ref like, what are you doing, my guy? It's been like 5 minutes here. So Galese is just eating shit. And we only get 3 minutes.
I'm pretty sure I lost my voice yelling at that guy. So him wasting time, the Orlando player losing his hamstring somewhere on the field, and then 3 goals. And yet somehow that's only 3 minutes of added time. Again, yeah, I understand it wouldn't have changed the outcome, but we got to get something going because this is BS.
Lucas.
And the fact that Galese didn't get carded for any of that crap either. Saturday was a complete
debacle
in every which way possible.
Yeah.
But all right. So let's talk about what everybody wants to talk about. We have now lost 2 games in a row. This has been quite the up and down season. We started with 2 wins in a row, and then we lost 6 in a row. We won 5 in a row. Now we've lost 2 in a row. Before Chris, I'm going to ask you if you're finally on the train. But before you do, I went back, and I went back only to April. I went right before we had that bye week, right? Yeah. The game before, which I believe was Dallas, okay? And I wanted to see. I looked up a specific stat that I'm going to give you right now. But I think we finally got on that 5-game win streak because we started playing the counterattack. Again, I've said boring, but with this roster, the fact that we don't have any playmaking in the middle of the field, no 10, it's effective for us. We can grind out wins, right? Stop playing up the wing so much. Let's just play the counter. And the little bit of chances we get, we kind of capitalize with, right? That's the goal. Yeah. Neville got away from that the last 2 games. So I wanted to run down a stat for you, okay? Before you tell me if you're tired of Neville or not. We have said the new strategy this year is cross and pray, or as the chat likes to say, cross and shala. Here we go. That game against Dallas, how many times? Well, I'm just going to give you. That game against Dallas, we crossed the ball 23 times. We lost that game. Then we came back off that bye week. We played against Houston. 20 crosses. We lost that game. Then we played against Columbus. We finally won. Only 13 crosses. Against Atlanta, we beat them. Only 10 crosses. The following week against New England, we beat them. Only 9 crosses that game. Then we lost to Nashville. 15 crosses, creeping back up. On Saturday against Orlando, 21 crosses. When we depend on playing up the wings and crossing it in, it is not working. He is a professional head coach. He should know this. If he doesn't know this and doesn't recognize this, he is not competent enough to run this team. So I ask you, Chris, Phil Neville out, yes or no?
No, I'm not there yet. What are you gonna do? What's the game plan here? We got no Gregory, we got no Mota, we got no Pizarro. I mean, we just talked about it. What are you gonna do? You're gonna put in Ulloa. He's your guy now.
No,
nobody wanted to see Ulloa. Nobody wanted to see Ulloa in the middle of the field for the last 5 games.
I still don't.
All right, but then now, so what are we gonna do? So now we're gonna put our trust in 2 kids, Ruiz and Kramashi, and hope that they
play like the counter. Flower. You play the counter, which is what we said could work for this team. What we saw did work for this team. It's not like we beat nobodies. We beat Atlanta, which is a good team. Columbus, which is a good team. New England, which at the time was number 1 in the East. We beat good teams with this strategy. So why back off of it? We said, we have less than 50% of possession, we're winning. All of a sudden, we have 60% possession and we lose. It all makes sense.
I want to mention something here. We have Kamal Miller, who everybody's pretty comfortable with, is a really good player, right? Yes. I think 5 years in the MLS, right? He's got like a legendary card on FIFA. So, and I got it just so everybody knows. Now, in the interview that he had, he was asked in the post-game press conference about some of the performance. I'm going to read some of what he said in verbatim. He said, Chris, DeAndre, and myself did well back there. Who else did he miss on that? Negri, who's pushing up way too much, doing all those 100 crosses. Couldn't find that final pass. Where's the midfield at, Papa? Where's it at? Then he says he thinks that things got better after changing from 5 in the back to 4 in the back, and then finishes it off by saying doesn't think it had anything to do with tactics. So how is it that we can be able to say that this is all tactics driven, or at least mostly tactics driven, our failures, but then you have a player who's had 5 years in the MLS who's been great talk about how he is literally telling you it has nothing to do with tactics?
Because he's a good soldier.
Don't do that.
You think he's going to throw his coach under the bus? Didn't Campana say that it was tactical
last week?
Right, yeah. But look, and speaking of which, I thought that the whole Campana thing, I give him props because I believe it was Ian Hess that was interviewing him. Ian Hess doesn't speak Spanish, so he answered him in English. And I think some things might have gotten lost in the translation as him trying to trying to speak
Could be
English.
that. Look, I thought about that.
I don't think he was really saying like, yo, Phil Neville doesn't know what the hell he's doing. He has us playing messed up formations and tactics and whatnot. I really think that was more of a, you know what, I appreciate you speaking English, but
Yeah.
let's, if he would have said it in Spanish, I would have taken it a little more seriously, to be honest with you.
And look, Lucas is chiming in here saying Miller also said this is the worst locker room that has been since the losing streak, but later said it won't that it won't let the loss versus Orlando affect them like that. That's super cliche player stuff. That is cliche player stuff. But like if I mean let's look, am
Phil
I
Neville has to
being
go,
too
Chris.
I don't know about
Phil
he has
Neville
to go.
He
If
has
he
to go.
loses against Montreal, if he loses against Montreal, which we'll probably talk about on our next podcast, when that comes, then we got some big problems. Because not only is he going to lose to Montreal, but he's going to lose strictly to Lassiter and Duke. Because that's how it's going to play
I
out.
didn't even
You
thought
know
of
that,
that.
right? Like
I
that's
hadn't even
how
thought
it's
of
going to
that.
play out.
Yeah, I mean Lassiter scoring on us, yeah, that would be something. Off of an assist from Bryce Duke.
Yes.
Oof.
Oh my God.
The-
To
Chris
Lassiter.
Henderson special.
I hope he gets a freaking hat trick, bro.
The only thing that could make that better is if Kamal Miller scores like an own goal or something.
Yeah.
That would be the only way to make it even better. Okay, so you're still not. Well, I look. I think that he has to go just because we felt like he had finally kind of figured out. Let's see, this roster just isn't that team. He cannot do anything offensively. We can't create up the middle. Going up the wings isn't working. So let's just play the counterattack. And I, for the most part, I thought that was working well. So I was really surprised that he got away from it. And you can see all the times that I told you that we lost, almost all of them, we crossed the ball over 20 times that game because that was our only option.
Yeah.
That was our offense. Atlanta,
Listen,
only 9 crosses. New England, 10 crosses. Like, come on. Like,
but it is telling that for a lot of those games where we had less than double-digit crosses, we had, I guess, what would be considered a decent midfield.
well, we were playing the counter, though. That we were playing the counter. A lot, and I saw some people in the chat bring up the fact that Neville has lost his cool, and you could tell in the post-game press conference. Oh, look at that. And Esteban Dito, asking you shall receive. So supposedly he lost his cool with Franco Panizo. I saw the clip where he says, yeah, he said, you know, you're not gonna let me finish or something, and then he cussed and he apologized for cussing right after. You think he's losing his cool?
Andres. I'm gonna sue you with yourself, Andres.
You think he's losing his cool?
I think he is.
He feels it. He feels the hot seat.
It's like we spoke a little bit on the phone earlier about what's been happening the last couple of days, and we've had a couple conversations about how the media sort of, you know, covers and questions the organization. And one thing that I'm going to stay solid on, and I know you're solid with it as well, I got to give props to Franco Panizo, because he does legit ask some very uncomfortable questions to the coach and to the players. And he put him in a bind where, you know, look, Phil, if you can't answer the question, I mean, what's the deal? You know, he was on a podcast yesterday with geez, I just
Peter
lost
Brown?
it, with Peter Brown and Ed. And he mentioned that, you know, he got interrupted during his question, and then here Phil Neville comes with the double guns blazing, like, hey, you don't interrupt me. And I don't know, I thought that was kind of I thought that wasn't big on Phil Neville. He should have known better. I think that was a legitimate question that he was asking him, Franco.
What was the question?
You know? The question that Franco asked Phil Neville was, well, number one, I think one of the questions that he asked was about the changes in defense. And geez, what was the other? He brought up the Campana interview. He brought up the Campana interview, how he basically said that it was tactics and stuff like that. And right there, you could tell that Phil Neville was just super uncomfortable, because he questioned him immediately. Let's see. did he really say that? Oh, really? He did. Oh, really? That's what. And then so at that point, it's like what Franco said. He's questioning Franco's merit. He's questioning Franco's, I guess, his work. I mean, these are factual quotes. So of
Right.
course he's gonna feel some type of way because he's thinking that Franco's lying. But dude, this is facts. This is actually spoken about. Now, whether you feel uncomfortable about that or not, that sounds like a you problem, buddy.
Well, I unfortunately feel like Neville needs to be out. And from what I'm seeing, people that were kind of like with you or like on that border are starting to come over also. And I think that, look, one, you can't look as bad as you did against your in-state rival. As a fan,
Yeah,
that's like the worst thing you could do. On top of that,
it is.
you've looked bad. You've looked bad for a large portion of the season. You're 5-8. You've lost 8 games. You've only won 5. And the first 2 games, I'll keep saying it, they were luck.
But you know where I agree, though, is you can't look that bad and not answer questions and not have actual legitimate answers to show the fan base and to show the organization that there's going to be some light at the end of this tunnel. You can't have showings like this. But all right, but that's where Phil Neville as a coach, that's where he does have to come through and show us some light.
What the hell has he shown you that you're still on this, like keeping Phil Neville?
Well,
Or do you just want to be a contrarian?
It's not about what he has shown or not shown. It's about the fact that we have no players in the middle of the field right now. We have no players.
Okay. Well, if David Ruiz can come in and do what he did, I would try Ian Frey there.
I mean, listen,
I would try Ian Frey there.
It's like what we talked about last time. What do you have to lose? What do you have to lose by putting Ian Frey back there? You have absolutely nothing to lose.
Look, I would take him over Ulloa, and I would take him over that horrible display we saw on Saturday. So hopefully that's what we start seeing. Because
listen, we're putting Coco Jean and Kramashi were in the middle of the field. And that's another
thing. How are you supporting this guy when he keeps putting Coco out there over Taylor?
Because he's got wingers and left back wingers and right back wingers and wingers. He's got no midfield to work with. His only real midfielder was Dixon Arroyo.
Okay, but my question to you is, if you want to put your best team out there, why would you not have Robert Taylor out there over Coco? Robert Taylor can create. He can take on players one-on-one. Something that almost nobody on this roster can do. But Robert Taylor is Neymar light sometimes with the ball at his foot. He could take on players one. If Robert Taylor should be on the pitch over Coco.
Hazel Lopez chiming in. Today's episode is our record number, which is true. 5-0-8.
Oh yeah, look at that. I was confused at first when I saw that.
Listen, you're not wrong.
There's so many reasons, but there's so many reasons why this guy is not showing any competency in what he's doing. And I understand as a fan, who the hell are we? He literally played professional soccer in the English Premier League. He literally played for the English national team. Like, I get it. He knows. Yeah. He's forgotten more football than I'll ever know. I understand this. Yeah. But there are a few things that I could kind of understand as a viewer. And some of the things that I can understand, Robert Taylor is better than Coco. Yes. Crossing hasn't been working. And the counterattack, although boring, worked. So let's keep doing that. And I don't care that he knows more football than me. I know that he should know that.
I'm just saying, bro. The only player we had playing this midfield that actually plays in midfield was freaking Arroyo. Guy came in like 5 days ago. Okay.
Kramashi too? Weren't you on Kramashi's jock?
Yeah. But he's kind of a crazy person. He goes all over the place, which is a good thing and a bad thing.
Well, no, when they had him playing under the strikers, almost like at number 10, I thought he was doing very well. But this game, they had him coming out wide. Why?
Yes.
What is Phil Neville doing? What is he doing? He's got to get out of here. I'm sick of him. Ugh. All right, so what are you hoping to see tomorrow against Nashville?
Well, I mean, I could see, I could imagine what you're hoping to see. This guy not on a plane to, well, not even not on a plane to
The
the
home
games
game.
tomorrow. Yeah, you're hoping he's not a dry pink tomorrow. Look,
He'll be
the
there.
changes that I'm hoping to see is that Taylor gets some more playing time. I think Taylor should play like the whole game. I really don't want to see Negri with that pushing up crap. I'm getting real tired of his offensive contribution, right? And I'm putting bunny quotes in the air. And at the end of the day, like, it's really infuriating to see him do that, and then he plays absolutely no defense. It's brutal. So that's what I'm hoping to see or not see.
Thank you, Lucas, for this.
Oh my God.
Phil Neville's record with Inter Miami: 82 games, 31 losses. I'm sorry, 31 wins, 40 losses, 11 draws. He's won 31 games out of 82.
You know how many
And
games
look, and I get
under
it. Look,
sanction?
sanctions and
Higuain
what
blew
else
his
is
knee
it?
out.
And injuries and waiting for Messi. And I'm sorry. That's the name of the game. You go and you get this job. Like, do you think that he gets to give some money back because he doesn't perform at a high rate? Like, because his team isn't winning? Like, no, he's still going to get his full salary. Am I going to get some of my season tickets back? That money that I spent every year, am I going to get some of that back because some of the players got injured? So I have to just settle for losses and like just sit there and be sad? No, I don't get any of that money back.
And guess
I'm
what,
expecting
Lucas?
to pay. I'm expecting to pay for a good product.
Well, and
A
right there,
confident product.
And Lucas is telling you half those wins came from Higuain and Pozuelo saving him. And guess what? We don't have Higuain. We don't have Pozuelo. You know who we have? We have Coco Jean, and we have Dixon Arroyo. That's what we got.
Look, I used to go back and forth with my father last year because my father used to say, "This guy sucks." Right in the beginning of the season when we had that rough start, he's like, "This guy's got to go." And I would defend Neville. I was like, "Give him a chance. Give him a chance." And then when we made the playoffs, I told my father, I was like, "You see, he made the playoffs." And my father said, "No. The players made the playoffs. They made it despite Phil Neville." I thought he was just being silly. He was right. If Pozuelo doesn't show up last summer, we don't make the playoffs.
No, for sure. We don't. For sure we don't.
If Robert Taylor doesn't make the goal of the year, that game number 2 against Philly, we probably might not win that game. If Kristoff doesn't make love to the ball that first game, and then Lassiter and Borgelin have like 4 tries at it at an empty net, basically, we don't win that game. Phil Neville has done absolutely nothing that I think has gone and contributed to us winning. I thought, and I was trying to give him credit for parking the bus and playing the counter. I was like, you know what? Good job, Phil. You realize that this roster sucks right now because of the injuries. So let's do what we have to win. But for some reason, he got away from it. Why? If it's working, if it's not broke, don't break it. Like, that's the saying, isn't it? It's working. Why are we getting away from it? Whatever. I don't even know why I'm bothering with this.
I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I get the frustration. I'm frustrated myself. I'm giving myself until
You're
Montreal.
Not frustrated. Get out of here, man.
I am.
You're cashing those checks. Shut up. Predictions for tomorrow, sir.
I mean, at this point, like, who cares about the game tomorrow, right? I think that tomorrow we're gonna win in penalties, and the score is gonna be 2-2 to end the game, and we're gonna win in penalties like a bunch of weirdos.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you think he changes his tactics tomorrow? He went extra defensive against Nashville last week. Obviously, it didn't work, right? What does he do What does he do tomorrow? Do you think he tries it? He just tries. What's the tactics going in tomorrow?
I think that he is going to change his tactics tomorrow. I think that there's probably going to be one up front. I don't think he's going to go with a two striker set. Not only because we just finished playing Nashville, but because he probably doesn't want to show his cards for the upcoming game against Montreal. That's what I think.
Well, you know what? That's another question. Do you think what holds more weight for you and then for Phil Neville? Tomorrow's game or Saturday's game? Because I'm more concerned about Saturday's game. But I've always
Yes,
told you I'm not too worried about the Open Cup. Like, that doesn't really mean too much to me.
I'm more concerned. I'm more concerned about Saturday's game than tomorrow's game, but I can guarantee you that the organization, the club, is more concerned with tomorrow's game because
You think
that's a
so?
faster way to get over to
Some silverware?
yeah, exactly. Not only some silverware, but the winner of it plays into this what's
The
this tournament,
quarterfinals.
guys? The no
US
no no
Open.
no like yes. No, not the US Open, but like if you win the whole thing, right? Don't you play like in this big tournament where
The Champions League for CONCACAF,
yes, exactly. So like that's the fastest way to like get eyes seen, no? So I would imagine that the organization would see tomorrow's game as more important than a game against Montreal.
Did I say
Oh
CONCACAF?
my!
I think I did.
Oh, Champions League. That's what Steve Munoz said.
Yeah, Champions
Yeah.
League for CONCACAF,
Yeah. And then Luke is
I-
chiming in. Duke is going to turn into prime Messi, which I believe it. I believe it.
Well,
believe it.
we're gonna talk about Saturday's game on Wednesday. I'm just kind of
Yes.
curious to see if we're gonna be talking about another disaster on Tuesday night or if we win somehow. And if we win on
Yes.
penalties, remember, according to Franco, it's still a loss or
Yeah.
not a win. I don't know. What was it he said?
Yeah, same thing with Esteban.
Something weird.
Esteban is calling these like El Dorado furniture games or whatever.
Yeah. All right. Well, I can't make it to the game tomorrow, so I decided to give away my ticket instead of selling them. And I put it out there. If you retweet my tweet, I'll put you into the drawing. And I think it was only like 9 people joined. More, I think that's what it was. So I am going to go ahead and we are going to pick a winner. There it is. So here it is. So I'm going to spin this real quick.
Just to
and
make
we'll
sure
see.
you got Sebas out on there too.
I don't know who Sebas is.
There's a person. There's
Did he just recently retweet it?
Yes.
Because if he did, then he might be shit out of luck.
Yeah.
Okay, let me throw Sebas in there. If Sebas wins, there might be some upset people, but
Ooh.
Sebas just got added. All right, so Sebas is in, and we're just rolling it. Let's see. And the winner is Holman.
Okay,
I don't know
Holman.
who Holman is. So we'll contact Holman and let's remove him. And then Chris, you said you are also not going to the game.
Correct.
So we are going to give away a second pair of tickets. So here we go. Holman is one winner, and the next winner will be Jose Febres. Is that how you pronounce it? I
Yes.
hope I pronounced it right.
Fabulous.
All right. So we got our 2 winners. So now you know. You guys, we'll send you guys those tickets tomorrow morning, and you guys will be there, Southside first row. And I hope that you guys enjoy it.
Yes.
Uh,
I think it's going to be a fun game. I think it's going to be a fun game to watch.
Well, look, I usually poop all over the Open Cup because I'm not a fan of it. But when it's MLS teams playing against other MLS teams, that does interest me a lot more. If it wasn't
Stakes are higher.
a random Tuesday, I would have tried to go just because I like to see good competition. So I
Yeah.
would have made it out there. But yeah, I agree. I think hopefully it's a better game than the one we saw last week because that was a disaster.
Maybe Uncle Matt is
any
gonna show up. Make a stop
Who?
at maybe Uncle Mad.
Make a stop at
Tootsie's.
Tootsie's.
Yeah.
All right. No, that cross enchilada does not work, Hazel. I told you, whenever we cross 20 or more times, we lose every time. So that's just not working. Hopefully, we don't go with that route. Chris, anything else for the people? We ended up going a lot longer than I thought, an hour and 15 minutes.
Listen, thank you guys for joining the chat. It was a freaking blast. And hopefully by the time that we talk to you on Wednesday, we'll be further in the US Open Cup and we'll be talking a little bit of Dookie.
Lassie and Dookie.
Oh yeah, those are my
Oh, boy.
babies.
All right. Well, and look, and I'm gonna leave you with Steve Munoz's comment. Inter barely beat Hialeah, Wrexham, and Charleston. I doubt we'll beat Nashville. This is a fact. We did barely beat Hialeah, Wrexham, aka Miami FC, aka Money Laundering Kings. All right. Well, again, we appreciate you guys joining us live on the chat. We appreciate anybody listening on audio, listen all the way to the end. And we will catch you guys on Wednesday at 9:00 when we have. I'm going to see if Sofian comes back on to talk some Montreal. We had him before the season started. Until then, I hope you guys have a good one. Enjoy tomorrow's games. Holman and Jose. Peace.